Hi, everybody. Y'all, it was such trying times this morning. Y'all have no idea. I got up this morning like, all right, I'm gonna do my new moon reading. And everything was like, no, you're not. And I was like, oh, yes, I am. And it was like, no, you're not. My my video capture device died. The dump truck was doing all kinds of irreverent and ignorant things outside my window. It was really tragic. So rough. My neighbor's so loud. But I'm here. I made it. You're here. You made it. You made it to September 17th, 2020. Do you know how much you had to deal with and overcome just to make it to September? Thanks, Reed. Just to make it to September 17th, 2020 at 12:12 p.m. Central Time. Do you know what hurdles you've had to overcome, what burdens you've had to bear, what fear you've had to move forward in spite of, what courage it's taken? Listen, this is a moment and a cause for celebration because tomorrow is not promised. It's not. So, what are you going to do with what you have? Today, Saints, today is the first of two new moons in Virgo, and I've called this the facts of life. Why have I called this the facts of life? Well, earth signs in sidereal, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, these are about what can be physically perceived and experienced. Earth signs are pretty much, if I'm not in it like right now, then it doesn't exist. If I am not experiencing it in this right now moment, it doesn't exist. But also, what can I know about the past and the future based on my ability to soberly discern and assess what is right now? For all of you all that are just tuning in, this is your new moon reading. This is the first new moon in Virgo of 2 in 2020. The next one will be 29 days from now. And I'm talking about earth signs: sidereal Taurus, sidereal Virgo, sidereal Capricorn. And this is reality, y'all. This is about what is real. How do you know it's real? Because you're in it right now. And as far as earth signs are concerned, only what is real now has any impact or say about what was real in the past and what was real in the future. Now, I know you all can see that there are some problems with this, but that's why Earth is not the tool to be used for every single job, right? But for reality, for discerning reality, Earth is the tool for the job. So I'm calling this astro sermon, this tarot sermon, this oracle sermon, whatever, the facts of life. What are facts? I don't think that we actually have a very good and consistent working definition of facts. We too frequently, and I've spoken of this before on many occasions, we too frequently conflate fact with truth. Right? We would think that those might be the same, but they're not. Right? Facts are what is real. Now, what's real? You see how we get caught in a little circle here? Right. So for the purposes of today, facts are what is experienced as real. And I want to zero in on how I articulate Capricorn. That, ooh, Jesus, these folks out here trying to lose their life on this corner. I wanna zero in on how I've been talking about Capricorn in 2020, about reality, and that what is real is reality and what is factual is reality. And by that I mean you know what something is, you know what realness is, you know what reality is based on the consequences of your encounter with it. Everything else is an idea. Everything else is a concept, it is a symbol, it is a projection. Only that which you what is real is defined by the consequences of your body to it. For example, fire, right? Now I can call it fire. I can describe the colors and the quality. I can take a temperature reading. I can tell you how I feel about it. I can tell you what I believe about it. We can have a whole conversation about fire. And I could call it anything else. But the fact of the matter is that you know what fire is based on the consequence of your encounter with it, right? So what is the consequence of your encounter with fire? What happens when you put your hand in it? Again, everything else is belief. It is an idea. It is a concept. It is a theory, right? So this new moon is really asking us to look at our lives and the world around us. And for just a moment to discard our, hey Papa Boko, to discard our belief, our myth, our doctrine, our story, our feeling, our judgment, to discard all of that for just a moment and to assess our present reality based upon our consequences or the consequence of our encounter with it. So this is Earth, and today this new moon in Virgo is trine Saturn right there, applying. 0 degrees is the new moon. Saturn's at 1 degree Capricorn. Saturn is stationary direct, y'all. What's the date here? Saturn stations direct on Tuesday, September 29th. And pretty much the moment that Saturn completes that U-turn, it is locked in a square with Mars, which is retrograde in Aries. So this idea of reality and how is it measured and quantified, what the qualities of it, but most importantly, what are the consequences of your encounter with it? This is something that we really struggle with because America's a very idealistic country, and that conviction and belief and willpower, fire, is the element that we glorify here. Fire and air, right? The idea of what something is, the concept, what we have the physical will to do, what we believe is true. All of those things tend to be more important than reality. That we can ignore the real consequences of our encounter with something for the sake of maintaining a belief system. So you've heard me say before, an identity is a belief system and it's being weaponized against you. In this moment, that looks like if you cannot accept that there is something called death that does not give any care about your race, your gender, your class, your sexual identity, who your mama is, who your daddy is, who your first cousin is, what high school you went to, where you grew up, right? Death is a reality that we all eventually face. And the idea that death is something that victimizes only a certain group of people, the reality is, and this moment, this year has taught us through Saturn and Capricorn that tomorrow is not promised. Your money cannot save you. How many people have we witnessed be taken away from us so suddenly this year? The way that death has come to be a character, a main character with a story arc, and an evolution of its own in 2020. Death is this entity, this thing that really from the day that Saturn entered Capricorn, January 23rd, 2020, death made its presence known. And that if we thought we were immune or special, that nope, you're not. And the facts of life at this new moon in Virgo is a grounding tether point. And what I mean by that is that there are a lot of things to be concerned about. There are a lot of things that we are worried about, rightfully so. There are so many things that are demanding our emotional energy and the limited bank, the limited quantity of worries that we have. And this is important at this moment where we're all overwhelmed. This question of, what should you be worried about? What should you worry about? You cannot worry about everything, right? So I want to offer that one possible way to move through this time is that what are the things that immediately have consequences for your physical well-being? What are the concerns of all the things to be worried about? What are those things that have the most immediate consequence on your physical well-being? This is where ideas really challenge us, and conviction and belief can make life difficult because it upends a kind of biological hierarchy of priorities. One of the things that I've been talking about a lot with clients who have fixed signs dominant in their birth chart, that we think of the survival instinct as something only physical, something only that is biological, something that is only our nervous system or bodies. But identity is also a part of the survival instinct, that the self we are attached to as a cohesive story, past, present, and future, that too is a part of the survival instinct. Identity itself is a product of survival, right? I talked about this in a video I did a couple weeks ago, that survival, when we talk about identity, we're talking about the self that survived. And that we can be prisoner to that self, that we can lose sight of some basic things for the sake of maintaining that self, for the sake of maintaining this cohesive narrative. And when we have experiences that challenge that narrative, we can double down and shelter ourselves in the stories of who we believe we are. even though everything around us is picking away at that story, undermining it. This is our collective experience as a species right now. That everything around us, reality, right? The facts of life, they are chipping away at the stories we believe about who we are. At this new moon, Mercury in Virgo is in an overcoming square with Jupiter in Sagittarius. Squares are about power. All aspects are about power, but squares in particular are about power imbalances and how we work out these power imbalances. So this new moon and Mercury all overcoming Jupiter and Sagittarius, how are the facts of life, the facts of reality, the consequences of our encounter with what is, how is that challenging and overriding, subduing our belief systems, our politics, our morals, our belief systems as an identity? How, I would pause here. Literal Scrambled Egg says trying to view being chipped away at in a positive light. Why you gotta view it in a positive light? Are you scared of negative? You can't handle the negative? Sometimes that is trash. And you have to be able to call things what they are. Spin is for PR, right? Trying to turn something around and repackage it and resell it. See, we gotta stop doing that, right? Now, there are times and places where I think that is appropriate, but this is not one of them. Because what Saturn teaches us is that if you cannot soberly face reality, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. And maybe you don't want to make it, and maybe making it is not important, and that's cool too. It's not my particular thing. I'm trying to make it. I want to see 2021. I have so many things that I want to do. I enjoy life. But I also know that when it's my time to go, there's not much I can do about it. There's no negotiating with death. There is surrendering to death. There is making peace with that reality. There is a reverence and honor for its existence. Someone else said, I've been feeling like I can't believe this is my life, like it's been hard to accept my reality. And guess what, Curls of a Mermaid? Saturn just started in Capricorn. So we've got another year and a half or two of making peace with this reality, right? But let's break that down a little bit. I can't believe, right? So if you say, I can't believe this is my reality, what's implied here is a belief that you have identified with and held on to that you don't want to or don't believe you should or cannot let go of in the face of this other thing that's looking at you like this, right? So I want to pull some cards. Yeah, I feel like that's enough talking. Plus, where I am in my cycle, my brain is tethered into my body by like a little string. So if I look and act a little floaty, sorry. But also the good thing about being in this state is that I'm mad psychic. I mean, I'm always psychic, but at this point in my cycle, it's like stuff just be dropping out of the sky, and I'm very, very, very receptive to it. So I'm very excited about this. I'm not pulling cards for individuals. This is a general reading for all of us for this new moon. Some advice, some guidance, some helpful ways to interpret what it is that we're experiencing right now. Thank y'all. You're so funny. So please don't raise your hand because I'm not doing individual readings, okay? Maybe another time. If you all catch Tatiana Tarot, I think at 1:30 she's doing pulls, one card pulls for people. So if you got time, catch her. I'm not doing any pulls for people today. All right. I really should put this here. All right. Queen of Cups. This is the Golden Thread Tarot. Queen of Cups is the card of being in your feelings. It's a card of emotional processing. I feel like a lot of us are in this space that we're trying to make sense of what is, but also trying to make sense of what we feel about what is. Oftentimes, the Queen of Cups, there's a tinge of disappointment here, in the sense that we cannot easily make sense of how we're feeling. And that there's a heaviness and sense of being weighed down by feelings. Oftentimes, we want to skip to solutions, and we see feelings as problems that need to be solved. But feelings are meant to be felt. And there are some actions that come quite naturally from feelings. But I think that in general, we are so much more complex than that. That the action we take in response to anger is not always cussing a mofo out. Sometimes it's creating a hard boundary. Sometimes it is just taking some space. Sometimes it is cutting somebody off. Who knows? But the Queen of Cups is processing. The Queen of Cups is thinking about these things. The Queen of Cups is actually figuring out how they feel. And this is really important. Something that came up this week, just in conversations with friends, is that some of us have had our capacity to feel and identify our own feelings hijacked by the survival-based necessity of preemptively knowing what other people are feeling. So we use the word I feel, but it's never followed by an actual feeling, right? So this Queen of Cups is asking, how do you really feel? Can you actually say, I feel, and say a feeling word, and not describing the circumstances, not describing what you think you should feel, not describing someone else's perceived intentions, not offering an opinion or judgment or description? Can you say, I feel, with an actual feeling word after it, right? All right, we've got the Seven of Cups, the Page of Wands, and the Four of Cups. Oh man, these cards are just not the exciting ones. No wands, no swords, no trump cards. Done by Nikki. I do not generally stop and answer questions in the middle of my reading. Generally, if I'm going to take questions, I will take questions afterwards, and I take them from the question box because I can't keep track of questions that are going up and down the chat scroller thingy. So if you have a question, please wait until I ask for questions, because if the time runs out on this video and you put a question in the question box, your question gone. All right. Seven of Cups. This is a card of ambivalence. I think that there is a lot of how should I feel about this in the Seven of Cups. And that's a tough one, because how we should feel about something is very different than how we actually feel. And hopping to the should often means that not only do we not know how we actually feel, but that feeling has passed. And so we just get in this cycle of not feeling our feelings, and this cycle of um, um, this cycle of unfelt feelings. Here's a question for you. Where do all of the unfelt feelings go? Where do the unfelt feelings go? Pro tip. They're still there in your body. All of the unfelt feelings are still in your body, right? Yeah. So this Seven of Cups, I think, is sometimes a fear of actually feeling the feelings and a lack of sureness where Destiny says she eats her feelings. What are the consequences of actually feeling feelings? What are the consequences of actually feeling feelings? I'm gonna tell you from personal experience. Scary, painful, but more than painful, it's intense. And you know that feeling when you vomit and like the retching feeling and like your stomach is contracting and your esophagus is contracting and you know your mouth just juts open, right? Like all of these things are happening and you can't stop it. It's a reflex, an impulse. I want you to imagine this is what it's like when you finally feel those feelings that you did not have the capacity to process, that you did not have the capacity to feel, that was beat, abused, assaulted, neglected, abandoned out of you, right? The capacity to actually feel those feelings. What happens to so many of us is that our upbringing environments actually teach us very, very early that feeling feelings are not useful, and also feeling feelings is not safe. And so the part of our bodies and brains that are tuned into feeling and processing feelings gets a little shutdown switch. You know, like you shut down your computer. The computer ain't die, didn't stop working. You just shut it down. It's not on. And so when that switch comes back on, there's a backlog. And like I described, that feeling of vomiting, this can be what it feels like when these feelings come up, right? That it's out of your control. And I think that's the hardest part, is emoting and the emotional reactions that we have to things are not in our control, right? That's a very hard thing to process, to face, to deal with. Because that's not the thing we're given tools for. We're not given tools to process and actually feel. We're not taught that. We're taught to develop willpower to overcome the reality of what we feel. So let's add this to our little tarot story today, our little astro sermon today. Feelings are reality. Emotions are reality. just because you've talked yourself out of them, just because they were not safe in your home, feelings are reality. And it's so interesting because at the same time, we can also say that we should not believe everything we feel. And this is complex because our nervous systems can be hijacked. They can be overtaken by people. They can be overtaken by belief systems that we willingly or unwillingly adopt. And I think the question is not whether or not we should believe feelings, but can you approach your feelings with a sense of curiosity, right? Can you acknowledge what comes up within you without resistance and with curiosity? Y'all keep asking me if this video is gonna save. Y'all, I save every single video I ever do. It's on here, y'all. I love y'all, but I'm gonna save the video. Can you respond with curiosity? Diane Dews, I don't think all feelings are meant to be understood either. I don't think that feelings are meant to be understood. That's intellectual, right? The idea that you're going to know and understand everything that you feel is just not true. And feelings are meant to be felt. That's it. And some feelings aren't even meant to be felt, to be honest, because some feelings put you in further danger, right? That's what Scorpio knows, right? That's what Taurus knows. They know that all feelings are not welcome or safe, and that feeling can put you in harm's way. But as adults, we have the power to create a world and choose relationships or feed relationships that actually are safe places for our feelings. And that we can first make our bodies a safe place for our feelings. Page of Wands. Pages are map makers. Four of Cups. So I want to read all of these together because if I break them down too much, we're going to lose the sense of cohesion. So we started off with the Queen of Cups on the bottom, which is about feeling your feelings and processing your feelings and actually just being in your body. Really embracing your emotional body as a real thing that exists. At the beginning of this video, I talked about Capricorn and Virgo, Saturn in Capricorn, trine this new moon in Virgo, and I talked about facts and reality. And I talked about facts and reality not being about language. It's not about naming something or giving it an accurate word. Fact and reality is you know that something is real based on your encounter with it. Now, it can get confusing because how do you correctly identify what is the consequence of a particular thing? How can we correctly identify when something that is happening in our world is a consequence of an emotional reality that we have not become aware of? There's a lot of not taking action in this reading. There's a lot of hold on, sit down. How can you really properly make a map of what is possible when you have not properly assessed what is? What is your present emotional reality? What is the evidence of that emotional reality? Your life is the consequence of your emotional reality. So I feel like there's this experience or opportunity for perceiving some things about our emotional reality based on our lives as evidence of our emotional reality. So this makes me wonder, if we cannot feel and access grief, for example, what is the evidence that that grief is there in our lives, right? Sometimes we can't even identify that certain things are a loss. Sometimes we don't feel entitled to grieve. Sometimes we feel like that thing we did not own or that person we did not know personally, so who am I? But the evidence of feeling is our lives. The evidence of emotional reality is our lives. So in what ways can you observe your life and let it speak to you about your emotional reality? In what ways is your life the consequence of your own emotional reality? Right? Four of Cups is a tough card, y'all, because it can really be a card of resignation, of feeling like you've had enough, feeling overwhelmed, and the drive to divest emotionally. But I think with the Four of Cups, there's a lot of wishful thinking about divesting emotionally. These are all defense mechanisms, though, and they're useful. They work. We have defense mechanisms because they work. Deciding that you don't give up is a defense mechanism that has worked. Cutting yourself off from caring is a defense mechanism that has worked. Because if you cared, you would actually have to face the reality of your powerlessness to change other people, your life, your home, your upbringing, your mama, your daddy, your sister, your cousin, your uncle, your pastor, your youth pastor, your teacher, right? That caring or saying I don't care as a defense mechanism is really a way to avoid facing the reality of your powerlessness. There are some things we're powerless to. It's just what it is, right? But actually you do care. We do care, right? This reading feels like a big giant maze of navigating feelings and emotional realities and how we develop certain habits and certain ways of dealing with emotions. Hey, Stephanie. Um, and it's like a rat caught in a maze, or being caught in one of those giant corn mazes where you actually never get enough perspective to see the whole of the maze at once. And so all you can do is make decisions to turn left or right based on what's in front of you in that moment, and kind of mind mapping, or mapping with your mind which paths you've already gone down, which paths you have not. Um, Either way, we still find ourselves in circles, right? What does your emotional maze look like? Right? What paths do you find yourself constantly going down and bumping into a dead end? Right? What paths of feelings, what narratives and stories do you tell about experiencing certain feelings? And do they work? Are they getting you where it is that you're trying to go? Or are they constantly leading you to a dead end, and you find yourself continually kind of walking this same path? Um, there's a term of like muscle memory, but I think that there's also kind of like an emotional response memory, where you encounter a feeling. So let's stick with this feeling of powerlessness, right? You encounter the feeling of powerlessness. And if you go left, you're going to the I don't care route. Like, powerlessness is, this hurts me, this person hurts me, this circumstance, this reality hurts me, or I don't like it, and there's nothing I can do to change it. So we got three choices. We can stand right here and face the powerlessness and accept it. Or we can go left to the I don't care route and decide that it's not that important anyway. I ain't even really like her like that, so it don't even really matter. Plus, I mean, I knew I wasn't going to be there for a long time, so it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? I don't really care. Or I ain't really fucking with her like that anyway, so I mean, whatever, man, it's whatever, do you know what I'm saying? Right? Where the emotional reality is really, there is nothing I can do to change this. Can you sit in that space? And what other options rise or offer themselves to us when we actually sit and face the powerlessness? Right? I feel like this is definitely speaking a lot of Mars and Aries square Saturn in Capricorn. That there are some things that you're not going to be able to force and push yourself through. There are some obstacles that you have zero power to change or remove. And sometimes it's a closed door that's a no. It's a closed door that's a no. And it may not be forever. It may just be for now, actually. But actually, we'll never know if the door will eventually open if we keep going the I don't care route. So this makes me think of something like a maybe so-called emotional persistence of facing powerlessness really requires the ability, the courage to maintain your emotional ground and not just abandon your desire or the feelings that come up because they are not immediately impacting your reality. Right? I think that's all I have to say. Ooh, y'all. I'm so loopy, man. I feel high, and I'm not. How much time do I have left? I have 15 minutes left. So let's see how many questions I can answer in 15 minutes. Put your question in your question box. In the question box. It says that there are 3 questions in the question box, but they are gone. Okay. So if you have a question, put your question in the question box. That's okay. The reading will be saved. It'll be on IGTV. All right? You're welcome, guys. Okay. It keeps saying that y'all are putting questions in the question box, but I can't see them. Did y'all put a question in the... Every time somebody's question pops up, I can't see it. Okay, y'all got to put your questions on the timeline then, because your questions aren't showing up in my question box. Wait a minute. Hold on. Turn off request to go live. Turn off commenting. Please put your question in. Yeah, they're empty. It's no question showing up here for me, guys. Yeah, my device I use to go live with my other camera. Let me turn this off. Hold on. It just died today. My Cash App is listed right at the bottom, Financial Bliss Coach. Okay. How do you manage dissociating from trauma and pain? Therapy, y'all. That's therapy. That's therapy. Because this is Tebo Gonong, you really have to have a safe place to do that. It's really hard to know when you're actually in a safe space, because our capacity to discern whether someone or something is safe or dangerous is often the thing that is taken from us from trauma. Somebody said Mars in Aries favors a fire-heavy chart. That's a general statement that I can't say yes or no to. Is there an element that can overcome Earth and therefore reality? I think that at best we can do 2 things. We can change our perception of reality, and that's often done with language. So we'll see that pretty clearly with this Mercury retrograde coming up. Mercury enters Libra next Tuesday, September 22nd. It's going to be the first time we have pretty significant Libra transits since Saturn entered Capricorn January 23rd, 2020. So social consensus can change reality for sure. Earth in some ways, but I don't think it's a matter of overpowering or overcoming. Because you can't overcome or overpower death. That's the ultimate reality, the temporal nature of things, time. So no. In the 2020 Sidereal Astrology Guide, I have a table. Here, let me get it for y'all. I mean, another way to ask that question, the Dalai Mama, is by saying, is there a way to overcome or overpower the consequences of our encounter with something? No, you can't. But this particular table here in the 2020 Sidereal Astrology Guide, Saturn defines reality. The house it transits says who or what determines the limits of your time, energy, body, and other resources at any given time. Every planet must deal with Saturn as it is either conspiring with, undermined by, or in contention with reality. What are ways to communicate emotions and boundaries before you're fully aware of them and they're affecting you? You're going to have to try that question again. How do we align this in the context of examining the facts that lead to solutions to problems per the Sidereal Astrology Guide? So at the beginning of this reading, I define facts and reality as I define reality as we know that something is real based on the consequence of our encounter with it. So examining facts means, can you actually perceive what is and not what you believe something should be, right? Facts as in, can you make a sober assessment of what is? What opportunities have you seen or experienced as a result of facing and accepting the powerlessness? I think that the most readily accessible kind of memory or experience I have with this is especially with people. And it's really about recognizing that you cannot change people by force. Yeah, I hear you got no pants on. You can have an impact on people's lives with your presence, but you can't force people to change. And that's a special kind of powerlessness that's hard to deal with. But I think that it frees you up to recognize who you can get certain needs and things from and who you can't. And it really liberates you from standing there hoping that someone will give you something that either they don't want to give or don't have the capacity to give. And it doesn't really matter because you're not getting it from them. So you can go find and get it somewhere else now. What are the differences between the harmony of a trine and the comfort of a sextile? I have trouble differentiating between the two, especially with the trine between the moon and Saturn right now. So let's just remove these judgments from describing aspects. Let's remove harmony and comfort. I think that those give value judgments that are misleading and not always applicable. Planets that are trine are in the same element. So it means they have or are working with the same tools to solve a problem or approach an issue. Sextiles are between planets that are in elements that are so like earth and water, right? These two elements can have a fertile relationship with each other, but also too much water or not enough water, right? So there's a measure of balance here in quantity that makes it important that we not add value judgments to understanding those aspects. So trines occur between planets in the same element, right? So it's important to understand the element. And then sextiles occur between planets in complementary elements. Any recommendations for approaching depersonalization? I don't know what that means. Will you be doing a workshop on engaging your child based on their Mars placements? Hopefully in 2021, I'll be doing my Parenting with Astrology workshop. Will you make an expanded aspect glyph? I'm not sure what that means. Oh, that was all the questions. Yeah, sorry to you guys who put your questions in the question box. The question box don't work today. So the questions that got put in the question box, there is nothing there when I open it. So sorry. I did not include aspects in the Reading Your Sidereal Birth Chart workshop because that really requires a whole workshop of its own. Aspects are so complex, and there are so many factors to take into consideration. Yeah, no, I probably won't be changing that, Wandering Gold, because I want to keep it simple. Aspects are really complex, and so I try to make it as simple as possible. And it's important that for the 2020 for any of my sidereal astrology guides, that I don't overwhelm people with too much information, because a lot of people who really have never seen a birth chart before get this. And I want to make the information readily applicable. Somebody asked, well, Aries, and I think they mean Mars retrograde in Aries, put us more in a warlike attitude. You got to look at the world around you. Mars is already stationed retrograde. And so part of being an astrologer is being an astute observer of reality and really figuring out which events that are happening can be associated with a particular planet. So you just got to pay attention. Could you possibly expand on Saturn meeting Jupiter in Capricorn? It's mentioned in the sidereal guide. It's not just mentioned in the sidereal guide. I definitely went into greater detail on that than pretty much anything else. I mean, all of this, and this is about Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn, but also the consequence of conviction. This beginning piece is also about Jupiter and Saturn and Capricorn. But I'm going to be doing a talk on the astrology of 2020 probably after Christmas. And I'll definitely be talking about that conjunction. Then it'll probably be what I start with. Okay. You guys are so welcome. I'm going to call it a day and go lay down or something and try to unscramble my brain cells. Thank you guys for tuning in so much. Oh, I meant to tell y'all, I'm opening up my books tomorrow. So if you are not on my email list, I'm going to post the link. The link is in my bio already, actually. I'll post a reminder in my stories, but I'm opening up my books tomorrow, Friday, September 18th. The notification will go out via email. If you are not on that email list, I'm sorry, you're probably not going to get a spot. If you think you're going to wait for a tweet or a little bit later in the day, you're going to miss out. So please make sure that you are on my email list if you would like to try to get one of the limited slots I have for readings. Again, I'm opening up my books tomorrow, Friday, September 18th. Please sign up for my email list to be notified as soon as my books open. I will only be taking a very limited number of 30-minute readings because I was supposed to be working on the 2021 sidereal astrology guide this month, but it ain't happening. So we're going to try again in October to get that stuff done. And I just need time that I can't spend doing readings. So yeah, check the link in my bio to sign up for that list. Talk to you guys later. You guys are so welcome. Bye.